class. So we've been discussing the federal government for quite some time now. Last class we talked about checks and balances. This system was put in place to make sure that one branch of government doesn't become too powerful. Who can give me an example of checks and balances we talked about last class? Zach.
The president can veto laws written by Congress.
That's right. President can veto laws written by Congress, and Congress can override that veto with a 2/3 majority vote. That's another example of checks and balances. So the Constitution was written in 1787 with systems like this in place to limit the government, but some people still worried that the government might infringe on or weaken or damage the rights of individuals. Some people insisted that these rights be included before they would accept the Constitution as a plan for the government. So therefore, in 1791, 10 amendments were added to the Constitution. And those amendments were called the Bill of Rights. So, this term refers to the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. The Bill of Rights was a way to further limit the power of the federal government and protect people's rights. So, we're going to do a Bill of Rights packet today. So everyone's going to get one. So page 1, we're going to read simplified version of the Bill of Rights. It's important that you understand what each of these amendments says and what they protect. So we're going to go over them one at a time. The Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments of the Constitution. So who wants to read Amendment 1 for me? Who wants to read Amendment 1? Thank you, Zach.
Amendment 1 guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom for people to get together peacefully, and freedom for people to send petitions to their government.
All right, so Amendment 1 protects freedom of religion, so you don't have to belong to a particular religion to be in this country. It protects freedom of speech. It protects freedom of the press, so the press is allowed to investigate things and try to find out things. That's their job. Freedom for the people to get together peacefully. That's also known as freedom of assembly, and another word for that is protest. Peaceful protests. You have a right to peaceful protests in this country. And last but not least, freedom for people to send petitions to their government. If you don't like something that the government is doing, you can write a petition and then go around and get your neighbors and your friends and your family members to sign this petition. If you get enough signatures on this petition, you can send it to the government, and that is a way of telling them that you don't like what they're doing and you want to change something that they're doing. All right, very good. Number 2. Amendment 2 states that, I'll read Amendment 2, in order to have a prepared military, people are guaranteed the right to keep and bear arms. So Amendment 2 gives you the right to defend yourself with weapons. So that's something that you have the right to in this country. All right, Amendment 3. Amendment 3 states that the government cannot force people to house and feed soldiers in their homes during times of peace. Now that kind of sounds like strange to us, but believe it or not, back in the day that was a problem. Soldiers, back in the Civil War days, if they didn't have a place to stay, they just knocked on your door and they said, "Let me sleep here." And you had to let them back then because we didn't have this protection. The Bill of Rights allows us to say, "No thank you, stranger, I don't want you in my house." It's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy.
All right, Amendment 4. Somebody want to read Amendment 4 for me?
Read it.
Thank you.
Amendment 4 states that people, their homes, or their belongings are protected from unreasonable searches or seizures.
Alright, so you're protected from unreasonable search and seizure. If a cop thinks that you're doing something wrong and they want to look in your car or they want to look in your house or in your pockets, they have to have reason to do that. A lot of times they have to have a warrant to do that. Right? Amendment 5 guarantees a person accused of a serious crime the right to be charged by a grand jury. It also states that people cannot be forced to give evidence against themselves. If a person is found not guilty of a crime, he or she cannot be put on trial for the same crime again. Finally, the federal government cannot unfairly take people's lives, freedom, or property. There's a lot of information in that one, so let's break it down. So it guarantees a person accused of a serious crime the right to be charged by a grand jury. So it guarantees you the right to a jury of your peers. So if you're accused of a crime and you want a group of people to decide your fate as opposed to just one person, because that one person might be, kind of on the other side of your argument, right? They might not agree with you. So if you want a group of people as opposed to just one person, because you're more likely to persuade a group of people or one or two people out of that group as opposed to just being able to persuade one person, right? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It also states that people cannot be forced to give evidence against themselves. Have you ever heard on a TV show or something, if you're asked a question and somebody says, "I plead the fifth"? Have anybody ever heard that phrase? I plead the fifth, right? That means you don't have to incriminate yourself. If something that you're going to say might incriminate you or make you look like a criminal, you don't have to say it. You can plead the fifth. Next one, if a person is found not guilty of a crime, he or she cannot be put on trial for the same crime again. That's called double jeopardy. So if you go to trial, you're found not guilty, and 2 years later, somebody thinks you might have done that same thing again, they can't take you to trial for that same thing again. You've already been found not guilty of that thing. Finally, the federal government cannot unfairly take people's lives, freedom, or property. That's kind of self-explanatory, right? They can't just come and take your freedom for no reason. They have to have a reason. That makes sense. All right, Amendment 6. Amendment 6 guarantees a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury if a person is accused of a crime. The accused person also has the right to be told what they are accused of, and they have the right to a lawyer. They also have the right to see and to question those people who have accused them of a crime. So it guarantees a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury if a person is accused of a crime. Again, it gives you the right to a jury, and it guarantees a speedy and public trial. So if you're accused of a crime and they put you in jail, they can't let you sit there in jail for years waiting for your trial. That's illegal. They have to guarantee you the right to a speedy and public trial. The person accused has the right to be told what they are accused of, and they have the right to a lawyer. So you have the right to be told what you're going to jail for, right? That's obvious. You also have the right to a lawyer. You have the right to representation in this country. If you can't afford it, one will be assigned to you. They also have the right to see and to question those people who have accused them of a crime. So when you go to trial, you and your lawyer have the right to put that person on the stand, the person who's accusing you of the crime, and ask them questions to kind of try to get them to maybe admit that they were wrong, or maybe admit that they didn't see what they thought they saw. Something like that. All right, Amendment 7. Can I get somebody to read Amendment 7 for me?
Read it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Amendment 7 guarantees a trial by jury in civil cases, which are cases that involve a dispute between private parties or between the government and a private party.
So this is just basically talking about civil cases, which is not a criminal case. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong. It's just a dispute between two parties, whether it be between you and your friend or between you and the government. Maybe the government says that, says one thing and you say another. It's a dispute. It doesn't mean that one party or the other did something wrong. A civil case is just basically an argument. that goes to trial. So you're guaranteed a trial by jury in those cases as well. All right, Amendment 8 says that courts cannot use cruel or unusual punishment or set bails and fines that are too high. They cannot use cruel or unusual punishment, so they can't just beat you for no reason. They can't set bails and fines that are too high, things that you can't afford. That's all illegal. Amendment 9. Who wants to read Amendment 9?
Read it.
Thank you.
Amendment 9 states that people have other rights that are not stated here.
So that's kind of a confusing one, right?
Different.
That's a different one. People have rights that are not listed in detail in the Constitution. So that basically means people have rights other than what's stated specifically in the Constitution, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say that in the Constitution, but we do have those rights in this country. And this amendment helped to ease the fears of those who were afraid that spelling out specific rights would imply that people only had those rights listed. So the 10th Amendment, the last one, the 10th Amendment, states that people have all the rights not given to the United States government or forbidden to state governments by the U.S. Constitution. That's another kind of confusing one. It's a final protection, and the federal government can do only those things listed in the Constitution. That's basically what that means. All other authority belongs either to the states or to the people. So if it's not stated in the Constitution that the federal government can do it, that means that it's left to the states or to the people. All right, so now you're going to get with your partner, and you're going to complete page 2 of your Bill of Rights packet. So let's take a look at page 2 of the Bill of Rights packet. You're going to write the Bill of Rights in your own words. I'll be going around the room to check your answers, and I might jump in on your discussions. And just raise your hand if you have any questions, okay? So go ahead and get with your partners and work on that. And use page 1 of your packet as a reference sheet, right? All right. Working with your partner. So Amendment 1, what does Amendment 1 say to you? Covers a lot of things in Amendment 1, right? What does it say to you? Guarantees a lot of rights.
Rights, yeah, like all of our.
Like what?
I mean, religion, speech.
Right, guarantees your freedom of religion, your freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So make sure you put.
Guarantees that you're able to worship who you want.
Make sure you put all of that in your explanation. Alright, now you children may return to your desks if you haven't already done so, and take out your social studies journals. On the next available blank page, write your name and the title, the Bill of Rights.
Right at the top.
Yep, it's the title of your work here. Title of your journal entry is the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
All right. So on the board I've displayed 3 scenarios. What you're going to do is read scenario 1 to yourself, and afterwards in your journals, you're going to write a paragraph about how the Bill of Rights would provide protection for the people described in scenario 1. So you're going to write a number 1, and then you'll write a paragraph about how the Bill of Rights would protect the people described in scenario 1. You're going to do the same thing for scenario 2 and scenario 3. So when you're all finished, your journal entry should have 3 paragraphs, right? When you're done, just leave your journals on your desk because when you go to lunch, I'm going to collect them and grade them. Please note that I'm not going to be grading on proper spelling, punctuation, grammar, writing skills. This is a journal entry. It's only going to be graded on content. So make sure that you write all of the information that you need to write. Okay? Alright, so I'll be going around. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Alright, now while you're wrapping up your assignment and getting all ready for lunch, I'm going to play this short and very entertaining video just to kind of reinforce the ideas that we talked about today. So make sure you're listening while you're getting ready for lunch. Good job today, class.
Sleepy, you don't have to let them sleep up on your couch. Number 4, no one can search and seize it protects me unless people have a warrant to arrest me. Number 5, if you arrest me, respect me. Sorry, Alec, there's no double jeopardy. What'd you do after school? I plead the 5th. What'd you do after that, dude? I plead the 5th. I don't have to incriminate myself or risk my health. Whenever I'm in trouble, I just plead the 5th. Number 6, you must process me speedily. 7, in front of my peers on the jury. Number 8, you can make me drink, choke my time for the fun of it. 9, the people get more than these rights. 10, states can